It started on an ordinary evening, one of those nights that should have been unremarkable. The television glowed in front of us, the couch creaked with our weight, and the hum of Netflix filled the silence we had long grown used to. My husband sat at one end, half focused on the show, half buried in his phone, and I sat in the middle with our son resting against me. We looked like a picture of family comfort, but the truth was much different. Beneath the quiet, there was distance, layers of disconnection that had taken root over the years. What had once been laughter, intimacy, and late-night conversations had been replaced by routine and indifference. I had stopped trying to reach for him after too many ignored attempts. I still cooked, cleaned, smiled when expected, but inside I felt invisible, like a shadow existing in my own marriage. My husband had become more of a housemate than a partner, his eyes always scanning emails or glued to the small screen in his hand. Even sitting just a few feet away, he seemed unreachable, locked inside his own world. And yet, I stayed, convincing myself this was what marriage became after years of being together. Comfort without passion. Stability without warmth. I told myself that it was normal, that maybe I was expecting too much. But deep inside, a hollow space was growing, and it craved to be filled with something I no longer received at home. It was during that quiet, unremarkable evening that everything shifted. My son, in his innocent honesty, tilted his head toward me and asked the one question that would echo louder than anything my husband had said in years. "Mom," he whispered softly, "why don't you laugh with Dad the way you laugh with Uncle R?" My heart skipped. My throat tightened. It was such a simple, childlike observation, but it felt like a knife cutting through a wound I had been ignoring. He had seen something I thought I had hidden. I froze, unsure how to respond. My husband barely looked up from his phone, muttering something about paying attention to the show, dismissing the comment as if it held no weight at all. But it did. To me, it weighed everything. In that moment, I realized that my loneliness had not been invisible. My son, young as he was, could see the absence of joy, could notice the way my smile had been reserved for someone else. He had named the truth I had been avoiding, and I could feel shame flood through me. My husband's indifference to the remark stung even more. He hadn't cared enough to even question it. That lack of reaction cut deeper than anger ever could. I kept my eyes on the television, pretending to follow the story on the screen, but all I could hear were my son's words replaying over and over in my head. That one question opened a door inside me that I wasn't ready to face, but I couldn't close it anymore. For the first time, I admitted to myself that something was broken, and that it wasn't only me who noticed. After that night, I could no longer unhear my son's words. They lingered in my thoughts like a whisper I couldn't escape, echoing even in silence. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself it was just a child's innocent question, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. Children notice the things adults pretend not to see. They sense the tension, the lack of warmth, the difference between genuine laughter and forced smiles. And mine had seen it all. It wasn't as if I had gone searching for someone else. It had happened slowly, almost without me realizing. Uncle R, as my son called him, had always been around, an old friend of my husband's, someone trusted, someone familiar. He came by for dinners, birthdays, and casual gatherings, slipping into our lives with ease. And though I had known him for years, something had shifted recently. Maybe it was the way he noticed details that my husband never did. The color of my dress, the new cut of my hair, the tiredness in my eyes. Maybe it was the way he made me laugh, not with effort, but with an ease I hadn't felt in years. At first, I told myself it was harmless. There was nothing wrong with enjoying a friendly conversation, with appreciating the company of someone who actually looked at me, really looked. But the more I compared those moments to the silence at home, the more dangerous they became. When he spoke, I felt seen. When he smiled, I felt a spark I thought had died inside me. It was never planned. After one family gathering, he offered to drop me home when my husband decided to stay behind to finish a late-night project with colleagues. The drive was quiet at first, filled with nothing more than small talk and the hum of the engine. But then came the pauses, the glances that lingered too long, the silence that carried more meaning than words. His hand brushed against mine as he handed me my bag, and instead of pulling away, I froze. That single moment was enough to ignite something I had been trying so hard to suppress. The guilt hit me instantly. I thought about my son, about his innocent question, about how he had noticed something even before I admitted it to myself. I told myself to stop, to push the thoughts away, to draw a line that should never be crossed. But lines blur easily when you've been starving for attention, and the hunger inside me was stronger than the guilt that tried to contain it. I found myself thinking about him more often, replaying conversations, smiling at memories I had no right to treasure. I began to look forward to the moments he would come around, noticing the shift in myself and yet refusing to name it. My son's words echoed like a warning, but instead of pushing me away from temptation, they somehow justified it. If even a child could see the absence of happiness in my marriage, maybe it wasn't just my imagination. Maybe I wasn't wrong for wanting more. That thought, dangerous as it was, became the doorway to everything that followed. It began with small steps, the kind that felt almost innocent if I didn't linger on them too long. A late-night coffee after he offered to drop me home again. A conversation that stretched longer than it should have, both of us knowing we should leave but neither of us willing to end it. It was never framed as anything more than friendship, not in the beginning. But the way his eyes held mine said everything words did not. The first kiss happened so quickly, and yet in my mind, it plays in slow motion. One moment we were sitting in his car, laughter fading into a quiet pause, and the next, his lips were on mine. I froze, shocked not by what he did, but by the fact that I didn't resist. Instead, I gave in. The kiss was soft, tentative, as if waiting for me to pull away, but I leaned closer, chasing something I had been starved of for too long. It was wrong, and yet in that moment, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Afterward, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The guilt sat heavy in my chest, but so did the thrill. For years, I had gone unnoticed, unappreciated, untouched. And now, with one stolen kiss, I felt alive again. It was as if I had been living in grayscale and suddenly discovered color. That rush became addictive, and despite every voice in my head screaming to stop, I didn't. Soon, the stolen moments became a routine. Texts carefully deleted, calls made only when I was sure no one was listening, excuses crafted with precision. My life split in two. By day, I was the wife and mother, going through motions, pretending everything was as it always had been. By night, or in hidden hours stolen between errands, I was something else entirely. I was wanted, desired, cherished. He looked at me the way I used to dream my husband would, and every time I saw that look, I lost another piece of myself to him. But the cost of passion is guilt, and guilt never sleeps. I'd come home from those encounters, kiss my son goodnight, and feel the weight of my betrayal in his innocent smile. He noticed changes too. Children always do. One evening, he tilted his head and said softly, "Mom, you seem happier when Uncle comes around." My chest tightened. He had seen it again, the thing I thought I was hiding. My laughter, my smiles, my light, it no longer belonged to the man I married. It belonged to another. That night, I lay awake beside my husband, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I could keep living this way. The thrill of passion was intoxicating, but every moment of it was tied to a rope of shame. I wanted to stop, yet I didn't. I wanted to run, yet I couldn't. I was caught in the storm of my own choices, pulled between the warmth of forbidden desire and the cold reality of betrayal. I told myself I could control it, that I could end it when I wanted to, that I was still in charge. But the truth was, I wasn't. The affair had taken on a life of its own, and I was already too far gone to turn back. Secrets never stay buried forever. I told myself I could control it, that I was careful enough, discreet enough, but deep down I knew the truth. Lies have a way of unraveling, and it doesn't take much for a fragile web to collapse. It started with small cracks, my husband noticing my late returns, the way I guarded my phone, the way I smiled at nothing as if caught in a memory. He never said anything outright, but his silence shifted. His glances became sharper, colder, like he was seeing me but no longer recognizing the woman he thought he knew. Then came the moment I had feared, but from the person I least expected. We were together again as a family, sitting in the living room as if nothing had changed. My son, innocent and unfiltered as always, looked between us with curious eyes before speaking words that would shatter the illusion completely. "Dad," he asked with childlike honesty, "why doesn't Mom laugh with you the way she laughs with Uncle R?" The silence that followed was louder than any scream could have been. My heart stopped, my throat went dry, and I felt the blood drain from my face. My husband looked at me then, not distracted, not dismissive, but with a clarity that pierced straight through me. In his eyes, I saw suspicion harden into something heavier. Confirmation. He didn't ask questions. He didn't accuse. He simply stared, and in that stare, I felt exposed. I tried to laugh it off, to brush it away as a silly remark from a child, but the damage was already done. There are words you cannot unhear, truths you cannot unsee, and in that moment, my son had spoken aloud the thing I had tried so desperately to hide. I wanted to reach for him, to explain, to protect him from the weight of what he didn't understand, but my hands felt tied by shame. The days that followed were a blur of silence. My husband grew distant in a way that was different from before, not the indifferent neglect I had grown used to, but a cold withdrawal filled with unspoken accusation. He didn't confront me directly, and in some ways, that was worse. The absence of words left me trapped in my own guilt, drowning in the knowledge that he knew and yet refused to acknowledge it aloud. Every look, every pause, every quiet moment in the house became unbearable. As for R, he felt the shift too. I pulled away, not entirely, but enough for him to sense the fear gnawing at me. "One night," he said softly, "maybe we should stop before this destroys everything." But the truth was, it already had. My marriage was no longer intact, my son had become the silent witness to something he should never have seen, and I was left standing between two broken pieces of a life I had once thought was whole. I began to see the true cost of what I had done. Infidelity isn't just about two people in secret, it's a wound that spreads. It seeps into the quiet moments, into the laughter that no longer comes easily, into the innocence of a child who notices what adults refuse to admit. My son's words still echo, sharper than any accusation. A reminder that betrayal doesn't stay hidden, not even from the eyes of a child. I don't know if there is forgiveness waiting on the other side of this, or if the distance between us will only widen until nothing remains. But I do know this. Once trust is broken, it doesn't just vanish, it lingers in the spaces where love used to live, haunting everything it touches. And I will have to carry that weight, no matter how the story ends.